Today I'm working on a project to create an album, and we're going to use one of the 3 fast formulas out of the 101 scrapbooking ideas and sketches. And I had these printed well before the book was available, but essentially what we're going to be doing is I'm using the 8x8 fast album formula. And you can see here I have a book that is 8.5 by 11. Again, I'm trying to use up some of my supplies, so some of these things are going to be quite old, but it still works and it's still an album. So what I ended up doing is I cut everything to the 8.5 by 11 on the width, and then I kind of cut the 4 inches and then 2 inches. And then you'll also see that I had so much extra paper that I ended up doing a 1-inch cut as well. And we are using, or I'm using today like I said, it's old, and a paper pack from Making Memories, the embellishment paper pack, which has the League collection. And you can see I think I may have used like 2 or 3 sheets out of here, but there is lots of cardstock still left after I have already went ahead and started cutting my fast formula apart. So the plan is I will be using this cardstock for some of the photo mats and placements and some of the additional embellishments that we're going to make. Now, this paper pack did not come with any embellishments, so that is going to be one of the things that we're going to be working through and making. And my goal for that is to use some of my punches and keep it more on the geometrical shapes, and we'll go ahead and use that. Some of the titles that I'm going to be using are coming out of these Die Cuts with a View, these old quote stack albums. And I've also paired them with some remaining Creative Memories titles that I had left over that I thought would be appropriate. This album, if I didn't mention it, is going to be an All About Me album. And with that, I also thought I have a list of different options, like something about your family, a daily routine, some of your most beloved favorites, when you were a baby, when you were younger. You could do some top 10 lists, and I think the possibilities are endless there. So activities that you enjoy, things that you achieve and accomplish, 5 senses, travels, facts about you, home, what you're grateful for, are just some of the different ideas, and I had kind of compiled a list here. Not all of these will make it into the album, and I will let the recipient, because it'll be a gift, figure out what they want to use as far as the title goes. One thing that I did to try to help myself organize all of this is I started to slide stuff into the pages so that I knew where I was at as far as how many more pages and sheets of paper did I need to cut. And I kind of tried to figure out and pair which types of patterns would look good together. And one of the other things that I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be using some distressing ink, and we'll do maybe 2 different ways and see which one people prefer. Or I'm going to use a Creative Memories marker. And what we're going to do, you can do either one with whatever you have on hand. And we are going to kind of age the paper, or like kind of distress the edge, if you will. And so I've got a dauber here to help with controlling the ink on the card, that you can just kind of dab it along here. Another option is always just to run the sheet of paper across the ink pad. And then you can also do put the marker on like a silicone mat and spray it with some water, and you can try to lift that up with the dauber, and then kind of just rub that along the edge as well. So a couple of different options. We'll try both, and we'll see which one kind of works better for the book today. But that is going to be the plan. What we're going to do is first go through I'm going to distress everything with the edge all of it. And I'm going to go through and start assembling it on the paper, like on the sheets here. And then the next step will be looking at the titles and then thinking about and trying to use some of the punches. And again, I've got a whole bunch of different punches over here that are geometric shapes, so squares, circles, hexagons. My favorite is this little guy that looks like a sunburst. I also have some tabs, and we're also gonna create some places to put some hidden journaling as well. So we'll see, and I'll try to time this to see how long it has taken me start to finish to put this together, because we're kind of going through in different waves. Hopefully it goes pretty quick, because once you get a little bit of a process down, it's a lot easier to just keep rolling with it and going. Okay, we're gonna do the first technique here. I do have this is a silicone mat that I'm gonna use. We're gonna try the marker. We'll try that one first and see how that goes. I'm sure I have my own preferred technique, but we're gonna just give it a go and a whirl and try different things and see what works. And then this is, again, ways that you guys can use your own supplies that you already have on hand, so that you don't need to go out and purchase the latest and greatest, if you will. All right, so we are gonna take the little dauber here. We're gonna get it a little, gonna rub that around in there, and then we're just gonna go ahead and rub it along. And because it's a Creative Memories pen, you already know that it's already photo safe and all of that good stuff too for your albums as you're using it. So we'll do this page this way, and then on the next page we'll try a different tactic and see how it goes. And this is going pretty fast. You don't have to get you don't have to be too specific about how it gets distressed and edged. And you can see a little bit of it along the way. If you want more distressing, you're welcome to kind of use it a little bit heavier or go further onto the page and distress it too. And there's lots of different ways that you can use it and distress it. You can create enough water here, get it liquidy enough that it's like a paint consistency, and you could even splash it so that the background gets a little bit like speckles and whatnot on it. And one of the reasons why I wanted to do this on the paper is because it does have a white core to the paper, and I really wanted to make sure that that was kind of covered up and masked so that you don't see it as you're kind of flipping through the book. Plus it'll kind of give it a nice little aged antique-y look as well. All right, we're almost done, and my little spot here is almost out. So let me do this again and go ahead, and I'm gonna take that off, go spritz it, put my little dauber back on, and go back to town here. All right, so that was one way to do it. And we did get all of these done for this page. So we're gonna put those back in there for now. And I'm gonna move on to the next page. Now with this one, what we're gonna do is I'm gonna slide this out of the way. We're gonna still use this dauber. Now you could use a makeup sponge, probably even try to use cotton balls or any other type of spongy, foamy applicator that you can find to go ahead and do this. And so now I'm just dabbing it on the ink pad, and we're just gonna run that right along the edge, same way. So this is one way that you can do it, is like this. I have noticed, just because I've done this a few different ways before, that using the sponge dauber, it looks like it dries a lot faster. The ink does. So the next sheet, or the next little piece of paper, we're gonna go ahead, we'll try one other way, so that you can have another idea of how to do this too. This next way is probably my preferred way, but it does take a little time to dry, so because it does get the ink pad is very juicy, and it does get quite a bit of ink on the page, but I like to just run the edges along the ink pad, and it feels like it goes a little bit quicker. But like I said, because it's such a it's a very juicy ink pad, it does get a lot of ink on there, and it does take a little bit of time to dry. So it looks pretty good except for this side. I don't know what happened here. It could just be the angle. Now, if you wanted more or less, and we might be able to see it a little bit better on this side, you can always angle it this way to get a little bit more, so you can see a little bit more of it. But if you just want the edges, you can just try to keep it at that 90-degree angle as it's running across there, and you can kind of see that there's not a whole lot of ink across that one, unlike this edge over here. So I tend to like more, like if I'm going to distress it, I kind of want to see it. So I'm going to go and angle it just a little bit to try to get some on there. If for some reason the ink pad were to slip, I would not be concerned about that at all. Like if a little bit of ink gets somewhere on here, that would be totally okay with me. So I've got that done. And so those were a couple of different ways to go ahead and try to distress the edges of your paper. And I'm going to continue on. I'm going to use up what I've got left over there because I had to remake my little thing. And I am going to let these dry a little bit before I put them back in the book. And then once I finish up with this, I will go back to probably my ink pad as my method of choice here. And I'm going to try not to get these all messed up for what pages I had them lined up for. There was a method to my madness. I want to talk about a couple of things as I start looking at assembling. Now I could use this book just as it is and have it this way, or I was toying with the idea of even having it this way. And the reason why I say that is because these are longer. They're longer strips, so it would be, I think it would be more eye-catching, if you will, to have them displayed landscape and be able to put the portraits, the journaling, and whatnot on them. Now, full disclosure, I have never worked in an 8.5 by 11 size, so it'll be a little bit different to try to fill the pages, but I think it'll be a good challenge. The other thing that I've got going on here is, and this is I'm gonna have to try to keep this straight too, is I'm only using one sheet of white cardstock of 8.5 by 11 in the album, and so I'm gonna have to attach the one side to the page and then the other side, the back side, to this page. And so it'll be trying to keep all of that straight as we go through there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take this first one out. I'm going to try to get it laid out. And I do like the landscape aspect, so I think that's what I'm going to go with. And because this particular page doesn't have that small little strip in between, so I can, I could put them on this side, I could put them together. I could follow the sketch and try to mimic what the sketch was doing. And so they had a piece at the bottom, the smaller one at the bottom, and then the next one here. And you can always flip around because they're all stripes. You could always flip them around, or I could flip to a solid one on the back. So there'll be lots of different options and things to consider as I'm trying to put this together. And then I had some extras that I was cutting out, and so I had this piece that I wanted to use for the photo, and because it has this little blue edge, I was going to try to put, or whomever gets the album would put the photo, or we could even put the title kind of off center, so it kind of hangs off of this too. So I may need to take a look at that and say where and how do I put this on as I'm trying to put these together. So maybe I'll end up flipping some stuff around, but you can always, like I said, follow the sketch verbatim. The only thing I did not cut out were the photo mats, but otherwise I cut the background pieces, and you could just easily flip through your book and start attaching them exactly in the sketches. Or you can get a little bit more creative and start to go a little bit in a different direction as your creativity starts to unwind. So different options and things that you could do as you're going through it. So now for real this time, I'm going to start trying to figure out how to attach these down, and then I will do a flip through of where I landed on the book. And like I said, I think we're going to go landscape to go give a little bit more options to go this way instead of vertical. So I have all of the background pages attached to the white. It took me about 35 to 40 minutes to be able to do that. Here is the first page, and hopefully the glare is not too bad. And I kind of rotated and kept the pages symmetrical. I did try a couple of different things as I went through and put it together. Like these, I separated everything. I could have cut down some of them and put them this way, but I kind of went with the linear look and just rolled with it. And again, it's a sketch, so you can modify it to whatever size album, whatever formula or format works for you and your creativity and your style. And you can see here I kind of flip-flopped everything, and there was one page back here. This one is kind of where I went rogue a little bit and tried a couple of different things, a little bit more muted on this side and a little bit more bold on this side. So we'll see how the pages all come together. They don't need to be 2-page spreads by any means. I think the All About Me album is more about the stories behind it than necessarily some of the photos. All right, and we are back with another day, and I've got all kinds of punches in front of me today. I have a 3-in-1 ribbon punch. I have the tab punch, a fireworks punch, a circle punch, and a 3-in-1 bevel punch, along with a trail sign and a square punch. And what I did is I ended up cutting a bunch of miscellaneous shapes out of some of my scraps. So I've got a couple of different colors of the squares. I have all brown in the trail signs, and I only did 3 of them. Not sure how we're going to use those yet, but we'll figure that out. And then I made a few different tags, 4 different tags, and I thought the decorative edge on this side would be fun. Otherwise, we can always flip it over, and it is brown. I have gone through and I did ink all of these. I would say the inking is what has been taking the longest time, and I've been using my Tim Holtz Distress ink, and I've also been using the Creative Memories brown pen, specifically for some of the smaller areas to try to get into the tags and get ink all over that, and then it too in the inside of the ribbon punch too. So those a couple of different ways that I have had to use both throughout this. And then I did 3 different colors of circle punches. I have no rhyme or reason. I'm just punching a bunch of things, and we're going to try to figure out how to use them as we go through. And then this fireworks punch, I think it's kind of a fun little decorative punch. I enjoy using it, and I use it a lot. So I've got a bunch of those in various colors. The tab punch we're going to go ahead and we're going to use here in a little bit. And then I have tried to distress the edges the best that I can there. And then I made lots of different random colors of punches out of ribbon. I did keep some of them longer like this so that I can cut them in half if I want to, or we can use them long like they are. And again, depending on what's on the back side, we can always flip it over and use that too. The other thing that I did is I did cut a bunch of different mats. I decided that I was going to do one mat per page, and they're large enough to be able to put a 4x6 photo on top. And this is about the size of a 4x6 photo, so it will have a substantial border showing around it. So I do have a bunch of those. I got some brown, some orange, and some blue is what I did there. And then the last time that we had gotten together, I had talked about going ahead and creating some pockets for some journaling. So we will get to that here as I kind of push all this stuff to the side for a moment. All right, so I have had this pocket template. It's a metal die. I have no idea where I ended up getting it from. And in fact, this is actually the very first time that I've used it. So that's a win for me on that one. And then I also found these Project Life Becky Higgins journaling cards. I hung on to these because they were easy to go ahead and anytime anybody wanted to write or journal, they would be an easy addition to include and write on. So I've hung on to these, and I have decided that we are going to use a few of them here in this project. So I've made a couple already, and we are going to make this very last one. I did use a die cut machine. I have a manual one that you just turn a crank through and slide it through, and then it cuts out like this. It has some holes or some perforations along the edges, and that's where we're going to go ahead and fold it. And then it does have a little bit of decoration on both sides. And on this particular one, we're going to go ahead and we're going to have the brown show. You could figure out which way you wanted, and then that'll determine which way you fold the edges in. And the other thing I discovered, the best way to fold and glue this, I did use actual glue. I don't typically, but it was the best thing that I could think of. It's the best thing to do is to glue and sandwich them together this way instead of trying to wrap it around. I made the mistake the first time to try to wrap it around. Did not go well. So plan B, here we go. And so I'm just going to put some glue on here. You don't need a lot. It'll take a little while for it to stick, but it has probably a better chance of staying stuck. Okay. And then all I did is I would just push down on here, give it a minute to take and adhere. And that looks like it is good. And I'm going to push that one off to the side. These have been dried for a while. And then this card will go in that pocket. And you can see I already have these 4x6 journaling cards fit perfectly, and they slide in and out of here. So what we're going to do is, I told you I did cut a couple of tabs here. Some of them are folded. I only glued the top part. I did not, so we could easily slide this on to the card carefully anyway. Oops. It's gonna make me work a little bit here, but there you can see I left enough room so I could just put it on there and glue it this way. And it could go left, right, could go in the middle, whatever your preference is. So we're gonna go ahead, and this one this is blue, I could go brown. I'm actually gonna do the blue So all I do is fold it in half, and then again with the glue, I just go ahead and I put the glue in here, and I did kind of put a lot. Pushed it down and let it stick. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna decorate. We've got 4 pocket cards here, and we're gonna decorate 2 with the tabs, and then we're going to do 2 with either ribbon or fiber. And what I did is I did go through all of my supplies, and I did select some ribbon and some fibers that I thought would work well with this album. So we're just gonna go ahead and try and see which ones we can put together to have them look good. And first I'm gonna put the tabs back on, but because this is a brown, all the way around a brown one, I am gonna put a blue tab on it, and I am gonna sneak the glue in here. I'm gonna just separate it a little bit, sneak it in here, get it all nice and gluey and gooey. And then I'm gonna go ahead and try to slide it on. And this one I'm gonna put off center and closer to what is my right. And I have no rhyme or reason for it, but it's whatever is your preference is what you could do. So we've got that one. And then we'll go ahead and I'll actually put glue on this one as well. And we're just gonna, once we get these done, we're just gonna set them aside along with all the other die cuts that I had cut out in preparation for trying to finish and put the finishing touches on the album. And then this one I'm gonna put on the other side, closer to the other side. And we're just gonna push down. All right, and we'll let these dry. I'm gonna slide that one out and let it dry a little bit. And then on these, I do have a hole punch that I'm gonna punch in the middle of the card. Oops. And of course, falls on the floor for me. So I've got my hole punch here. I'm gonna just guess where the center is. And if you really wanted to, you could measure it to be more precise, but I'm all about just kind of going with it, eyeballing it and doing the best you can. Okay, I'm gonna move that so it cuts all the way. And I'm done with that. So now I've got my 2 holes cut, and we're gonna do ribbon in one. And I had selected the orange and the blue. Kind of because those are my 2 accent. One's a major color and one's kind of an accent color here. I'm gonna cut them a little bit longer. I can see I'm gonna have to get my scissors out for the actual ribbon or fabric. And I'm gonna cut this one at the same time, and we'll feed them through all at once too. And now you could do 2 different colors, you could do 3, you could do 1, whatever your preference is. And then we'll kind of go through and we'll clean up the edges and make it look good too before we call it done. All right, now I'm gonna try to get all of these together and send them through the little hole. Okay, then we're gonna loop it back, put it through, and then gently pull it through. Might have to do one at a time. Do one at a time and kind of work them through so that you don't pull and wreck the pull the ribbon right through the hole, if you will. All right, we're gonna try to get them to stay kind of fringed and frayed apart. Now you can kind of see the edges are a little rough. You could leave them like that. You could clean them up. You could make them staggered, whatever your heart desires. I am very partial to clean edges, and the ribbons, the gross grain ribbons, I like to have them kind of at that angle from a point. And now these, the rickrack, I don't use that often. I don't know that I have a preference, but we're just gonna try to clean it up a little bit. And then we'll slide this back in, and we've got one of them done. And the next one, we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna use some of the different fibers, and I'm probably gonna pick maybe 3 different ones. So we've got, take a blue, and then I'm gonna go with the more muted orange. And then is there another, we could do the silver for a little bit of sparkle. So we'll do these 3. And now you could do, since these are smaller, you can do them one at a time if you wanted to. You could try to do all of them at the same time. If you had a preference, so you could do one at a time and just kind of see what it looks like and keep adding to it as you go. And you can see I grabbed the wrong scissors again. Those are my paper scissors. All right, we're gonna do that same type of method here where we put all 6 of these through at once. And then we kind of thread it back through. And this one's obviously it's a lot easier because it's smaller. But then that gives it a nice, and you can cut these leave them as long or as short as you want. You could stagger them a little bit from different lengths, which is what I may do here, just for a little bit of interest. Again, kind of clean up the edges. They always get frayed after you try to push them through like that. Okay. And there's another one. And so that one's kind of a fun little way, and you can kind of tighten that up a little bit too as you want. And I am going to keep the ribbon out and the fibers out because we probably will use them as we start to assemble the album with some of the die cuts that we've got going on. All right, and our last thing that we were working on trying to prepare is titles. So I showed you that I had a few of these different die cut with a view vellum quote stacks. They come in, I don't know, they're about what, 1, 2, 3 inches by 6 inches. I did cut them all down to kind of fit the saying that was on them. So they're all various sizes. And I did use eyelets, and that's what we're going to use to attach these as well. First of all, what I have been doing, and this has actually been very helpful to me, is I've got some vellum. Creative Memories has some vellum tape runners. And what I've been doing is trying to put them kind of in the middle over the words. For no rhyme or reason. I only need a little bit because really what's going to hold this down is the eyelets that I'm going to put through it. But then this helps to hold it in place. So I get it on there, I get it centered to where I want it to be. And then you just rub over the vellum tape, wherever you put the vellum tape, and then it kind of like disappears, which is great. So what I decided to do, because remember I had an overabundance of supplies of eyelets, I'm going to put eyelets in all 4 corners. And for this particular one, we're going to go with blue. And I like to just use my hole punch. I have a small hole punch here that I'm going to place it in on the corners. And just punch away, get them all ready. And I did make sure, because I did do quite a few titles like this, I did make sure that I had enough of whatever color that I was using so that I wouldn't run out. All right, and I'm gonna stick all of these in here. Now this next part's gonna get pretty loud. This is part of the reason why I don't like eyelets. But again, I've got them, might as well use them, right? They do give a nice look. And remember, the other thing that I'm doing too is I have to put them on here because I'm using one sheet of paper and I've got the front and the back on that same sheet of paper. So I can't punch all the way through my pages. Otherwise I will have holes in the opposite side. All right, this is gonna be loud, so I'm gonna just work away real quick at this and let it go. All right, it takes about 3 or 4 times. Sometimes I can get it done in 2 with this little guy. And this one's pretty sweet. It has 3 different sized eyelets that can be used, and it does punch holes too. So if you needed to punch it anywhere on this sheet of paper, you can. And they just slide in. It is magnetic in here, and you just slide them in and out. It's great. The only thing I don't like about it is that it's loud. So sometimes I'm up early or up late and working on things, and I have to kind of figure out and watch what I'm working on while my family is fast asleep. So here is kind of a quick look at some of the titles that I had put together. And I thought that they would all work for an album about an individual or a person, or an all about me album. So got some dreams, some joy, friends, home, memories, and just love and life in general, right? So I have a handful of these that we can use as well. And between the pocket envelopes, between the titles, all the die cuts that I did, I am down to 1 sheet of paper and some scraps from the pack that I had. So that's pretty good. So the question will be is, are we able to use all of this in the album? And I hung on to this because I have a feeling I'm going to do something with this. I couldn't bring myself to cut it up into smaller pieces. And if for some reason I find that I need some more circles or some more of the different die cuts I've got over here to my right, then I've got some extra paper here too. So I didn't want to use all of it. I hung on to these little pieces because we might be able to use them along the way as well. And I did go through the rest of my sticker stash and die cut stash and pulled out like all the collections and all the extras that you get. I did pull out a bunch of things that I did think we could potentially figure out how to work in. So I have a title. I do have some enamel, the dots I thought we could use, or the little pinpoints for places. And I've got some more dots. This one is actually supposed to be like a water one, but I figured these little drops, you could flip them upside down. They kind of look like that. So we may use those as decoration as well. I have some clouds, some love, and then these were various leftover remaining pieces of stickers that I thought we could figure out how to use. Again, we've got the little place marker dots on this one. There's potentially this right here, some family fun. Not all of these are gonna work, but there were some things that I liked on the sheets that I was gonna just keep in mind. This one is the little white letters that I thought could work in this situation too. So we'll see if we can figure out those. Same thing here with some of the, this was a travel one, but there's some different words here that could be used. We've got some arrows, maybe some of these, the best day ever, the epic, and it kind of the family, the siblings. And I had a couple of these, so I've got 2. And then here, got the hashtag blessed is kind of what drove me to keep this one in. It also has some border stickers that we could look at using. And then I think some of these will fit in with the color scheme. And here, I think it was this stuff down here. In the news, new routines, grateful for this, missing this, were some of the ones that I thought could be used from this COVID sheet. So I pulled out everything that I thought might be useful, and the next step is trying to go through and determine what should be on each of the pages. And how I'm going to do that is what I'm going to do. I'm going to open the book up, and because I've got everything in here, I'm just going to start sliding some of the certain pieces in here to divide it up and make sure that I have enough of everything that I think I want to use and what I want to put on here. And then I'll pull them out and try to start assembling them page by page. And remember how I said the titles, I wasn't sure I was going to put them on. I still am not sure I'm going to put them on, but we're going to look at it. And if it's things like best friend or some of the dreams, I'll look at what the saying is and determine if I should put it in here or include it, or if it's just one that might be repeated because there's a couple on dreams. Maybe one gets put in and then one gets put off to the side somewhere, and it's up to the recipient to figure out how they want to use it in the album. So that is my next step. I'm going to start working on that, and then I will rejoin you and show you where I am at, and then we'll start putting everything together.